Hey guys, it's me Bridget. I am back with another video. This video is going to be the chapter 2 to the Women Who Run with Wolves book that I wanted to do, like the series thing. So this video is going to deal with issues of when you first confront your first predator as a woman. If you're interested in that topic in this video, please just keep watching. And if you're interested in more videos from me, go ahead and subscribe and hit the bell so you'll be notified when I post. So this is from the Women Who Run with Wolves book. It's chapter 2. I realized the last time that I made this video, I low-key didn't even mention the title of the book at all. So just FYI, it's this book. It's by Clarissa Pinkola Estes. You can get it at the link in my description below. It's like an Amazon link. You can just use that, whatever. This chapter, I am so excited to get into it. Okay, so this chapter is the definite chapter that when I first read this, first go around, I was like, oh shit, Clarissa Pinkola Estes may actually really be onto something, really understand some stuff that I've never really put in words. This is kind of amazing. This chapter hit me super hard personally because I don't know if y'all know, but I mention it quite often. I went through a divorce situation where I was cheated on and stuff like that, and I don't after reading this chapter, I don't even blame the person who I was with for, oh shit. Y'all like my makeup today? I did it kind of interesting. But yeah, anyways, I was saying I don't really even blame the guy that I was with for what happened with us. If anything, I just wish that me and him could be cool and be friends and talk about stuff that we've learned, because I'm sure both of us have grown to be such stronger people, and I hate that things had to be so bad when it happened. And I hate that we probably both definitely both hurt each other so bad. But yeah, but I've just learned so much from the experience, and I like to talk about it, so I'm gonna continue talking about it because it's my life, so whatever. So I make notes for these videos, and I started my notes earlier in the notebook, and I didn't realize that just now, so I was reading midway in my notebook, and it just didn't make any sense. Okay, anyways, I'm back to the right place. So let me read my little notes, and then I'll come back. Basically our resistance. Oh yeah. Okay, so starting this chapter off, this chapter is basically about the whole issue of resistance, and more specifically the instances in your life where you deal with resistance from the inside, or from a self-destructive kind of resistance, basically. Beginning the chapter, it talks about this thing called the Contra Netzarim. Basically, it's the self-destructive nature within us that we follow against all instinctual wisdom. In the book, it says the Contra Netzarim aspect opposes the positive. It is against development, against harmony, and against the wild. It is a derisive and murderous antagonist that is born into us, and even with the best parental nurture, the intruder's sole assignment is to attempt to turn all crossroads into closed roads. When its cutting work is done, it leaves a woman deadened in feeling frail to advance her life. Her ideas and dreams lay at her feet, drained of animation. This is the internal want in us to follow bad things, to follow the bad boy, to follow the drugs that we know are bad for our body, the food that we know is bad for our body, to watch drama television, to watch the Kardashians on television, even though high-key I love them, but there's a time and a place. So this is the story from this chapter. I love to read you guys the actual stories in the book, so I'm just gonna read this to you. There is a hank of beard which is kept at the convent of white nuns in the far mountains. How it came to the convent, it's convent, isn't it convent? How it came to the convent, no one knows. Some say it was the nuns who buried what was left of his body, for no one else would touch it. Why the nuns keep such a relic is unknown, but it is true. My friend's friend has seen it with her own eyes. She says the beard is blue, indigo colored to be exact. It is as blue as the dark ice in the lake, as blue as the shadow of a hole at night. This beard was once worn by one who they say was a failed magician, a giant man with an eye for women, a man known by the name of Bluebeard. 'Twas said he courted 3 sisters at the same time, but they were frightened of his beard with its odd blue cast, so they hid when he called. In an effort to convince them of his geniality, he invited them on an outing in the forest. He arrived leading horses arrayed in bells and crimson ribbons. He set the sisters and their mother upon the horses, and off they cantered into the forest. There they had a most wonderful day riding, and their dogs ran beside and ahead. Later they stopped beneath a giant tree, and Bluebeard regaled them with stories and fed them dainty treats. The sisters began to think, well, perhaps this man Bluebeard isn't so bad at all. They returned home all a chatter about how interesting the day was and how they had such a great time. Yet the older sisters' suspicions and fears returned, and they vowed not to see Bluebeard again. But the younger sister thought that if a man could be so charming, then maybe perhaps he wasn't so bad. The more she talked to herself, the less awful he seemed, and also the less blue his beard. So when Bluebeard asked for her hand in marriage, she accepted. She had given his proposal great thought and felt she was to marry a very elegant man. Marry they did, and after, rode off into his castle in the woods. One day he came to her and said, I must go away for a time. Invite your family here if you'd like. You may ride in the woods, charge the cooks to set a feast. You may do anything you like, anything your heart desires. In fact, here is my ring of keys. You may open any and every door to the storerooms, the money rooms, any door in the whole castle. But this tiny little key, the one with the scroll work on top, do not use it. His bride replied, Yes, I will do what you ask. It all sounds very fine. So go, my dear husband, and do not have a worry, and come back soon. And so off he rode, and she stayed. Her sisters came to visit, and they were, as all souls are, very curious about what the master had said was to be done while he was away. The wife gaily told them. He said we may do anything we desire and enter any room we wish, except one. But I do not know which one it is. I just have the key. I don't know which door it fits. The sisters decided to make a game of finding which key fit which door. The castle was 3 stories high with 100 doors in each wing, and there was many keys on the ring. So they crept from door to door, having an immensely good time throwing open each door. Behind one door was the kitchen stores, behind another door was the money stores. All manner of holdings were behind the doors, and everything seemed more wonderful all the time. At last, having seen the marbles, they came to the cellar, and at the end of the corridor, a blank wall. They puzzled over the last key, the one with the little scroll work on top. Maybe this key doesn't fit anything at all. As they said this, they heard an odd sound. They peeked around the corner, and lo and behold, there was a small door, just closing. When they tried to open it again, it was firmly locked. One cried, Sister, sister, bring your key. Surely this is the door for that mysterious little key. Without a thought, one of the sisters put the key in the door and turned it. The lock scolded. The door swung open, but it was so dark inside they could not see. Sister, sister, bring a candle. So a candle was lit and held into the room, and all 3 sisters screamed at once, for in the room there was a mirror of blood, and the blackened bones of corpses were flung about, and skulls were stacked in a corner like pyramids of apples. They slammed the door shut, shook the key out of the lock, and leaned against one another, gasping, breasts heaving. My God, The wife looked down at the key and saw that it was stained with blood. Horrified, she used the skirt of her gown to wipe it clean, but the blood prevailed. "Oh no," she cried. Each sister took the tiny key in her hand and tried to make it as it once was, but the blood remained. The wife hid the tiny key in her pocket and ran to the cook's kitchen. When she arrived, her white dress was stained from pocket to hem, for the key was slowly weeping drops of dark red blood. She ordered the cook, "Quick, give me some horsehair." She scored the key, but it would not stop bleeding. Drop after drop of pure red blood issued from the tiny key. She took the key outside, and from the oven, she pressed the ashes into it and scrubbed some more. She held it to the heat to sear it. She laid cobweb over it and to staunch the flow. "Oh, what am I to do?" she cried. "I know. I'll put this little key away. I'll put it in the wardrobe. I'll close the door. This is a bad dream. All will be all right." And this she did do. Her husband came home the very next morning, and he strode into the castle calling for his wife. "Well, how was it while I was away?" "It was very fine, sir." "How are my storerooms?" he rumbled. "Very fine, sir." "How are my money rooms?" he growled. "The money rooms are also fine, sir." "So everything is good, my wife?" "Yes, everything is good." "Well," he whispered, "then you best return my keys." Within a glance, he saw a key was missing. "Where is the smallest key?" I lost it." "Yeah, I lost it. I was writing, and the key fell down, and I must have lost the key." "What have you done with it, woman?" I don't remember." "Don't lie to me. Tell me what you did with that key." He put his hand to her face as if to caress her cheek, but instead he seized her hair. "You infidel," he snarled, and threw her to the floor. "You've been in that room, haven't you?" He threw open her wardrobe, and the little key on the top shelf had bled red blood down all the beautiful silks of her gowns laying there. "Now it's your turn, my lady," he screamed, and dragged her down the hall into the cellar till they were before the terrible door. Bluebeard merely looked at the door with his fiery eyes, and the door opened for him. There lay the skeletons of all his previous wives. "And now," he roared. But she caught hold of the doorframe and wouldn't let go. She pleaded for her life. "Please, please, allow me to compose myself and prepare for my death. Give me a quarter hour before you take my life so I can make peace with God." "All right," he snarled, "but you have a quarter of an hour. Be ready." The wife raced up the stairs to her chamber and posted her sisters on the castle ramparts. She knelt to pray, but instead called out to her sisters. "Sisters, sisters, do you see our brothers coming?" "We see nothing, nothing on the open plains." Every few moments she cried up to the ramparts, "Sisters, sisters, do you see our brother coming?" "We see the whirlwind, perhaps a dust devil in the distance." Meanwhile, Bluebeard roared for his wife to come to the cellar so he could behead her. Again she called out, "Sisters, sisters, do you see our brothers coming?" Bluebeard shouted for his wife again and began to clump up the stone steps. Her sisters cried out, "Yes, we see them. Our brothers are here, and they have just entered the castle." Bluebeard strode down the hall toward his wife's chamber. "I am coming to get you," he bellowed. His footfalls were dense. The rocks in the hallway came loose, and the sand from the mortar poured onto the floor. As Bluebeard lumbered into her chamber with his hands outstretched to seize her, her brothers on horseback galloped down the hallway and charged into her room as well. There they routed Bluebeard up onto the parapet. There and then with swords they advanced upon him, striking and slashing, cutting, whipping, beating Bluebeard down to the ground, killing him at last and leaving for the buzzards his blood and gristle. The end. I love the stories in this book. They kind of always turn out pretty gruesome. It's kind of funny. Basically, what this story is representing is not that Bluebeard is necessarily this external force, but more that he is the internal force that, in order to reach full connection to our wild spirits, we must engage and experience the darkness that's against us. But we have to experience these things, but we have to experience them in a way of never losing our instinctual gifts, our traits and powers. She says in the book, to restrain the natural predator of the psyche, it is necessary for women to remain in possession of all their instinctual powers. Some of these are insight, intuition, endurance, tenacious love, keen sensing, far vision, acute hearing, singing over the dead, intuitive healing, and tending to their own creative fires. And although it may appear differently to everyone, Bluebeard is actually the ancient and contemporary foe of all people, of all genders, of all races. In order to understand the Bluebeard within ourselves, we must understand the classic resistance of the world. There's this part in here, it says, the problem posed in the Bluebeard tale is that rather than the empowering the light of the young feminine forces of the psyche, he is instead filled with hatred and desires to kill the lights of the psyche. It is not hard to imagine that in such a malignant force there's trapped one who wishes to surpass light and fell from grace because of it. We can imagine that it hopes that if it could gather enough souls to itself, it could make a blaze of light that would finally rescind its darkness and repair its loneliness. This is classic resistance of any story ever. It's the devil versus God. It's the serpent in the Garden of Eden. It's the God Ares in the movie Wonder Woman. It's literally the existential, I don't know if that's the word for it actually, but it's basically the representation of resistance in the world. And it's an undeniable truth of all humanity that we have this inner, turmoil with the negativity of ourselves and the world. And the negativity of ourselves is simply us being susceptible to the negativity of the world because we don't listen to our spirits and our own instinctual selves. What's trying to be explained here is it's a force that exists in the world because it's trying to suck good into itself. It's a negative force that is empty and it's trying to suck good into itself. That's why we have sympathy for it. That's why many women end up in relationships with it and love relationships with it, because we understand that falling from grace and trying to help it come back, but we have to, on a deeper level, understand our own journeys and our own need to protect ourselves and what comes too far and how to know that. I wrote in my notes, it's not people who get in the way of your life, but your choice to let them, which is the malignant force which within led to self-destruct, led against our own instincts. So it's the people who within themselves are allowing their malignant force to take over, and then we from the outside ignore our own instincts and then allow them into our lives. So therefore our own problems only exist within ourselves. Does that make sense? Do you understand what I'm trying to say? This story literally exists for all women. I don't know a single woman who doesn't know this story. For me, it was being very aware of having a unfaithful relationship and taking advice, and also just believing that I should stop looking and stop caring and stop being curious and stop wondering if I was the only one. And that obviously didn't last for very long. Is this to be expected? Can it be avoided? Could you possibly raise a child to be so strongly in touch with their innate like inner self that they would never go through this type of situation. The answer to that question is kind of no, but kind of yes. Like, it's avoidable in that you may actually just hold on to your instincts and just like be of that light, but it's not avoidable in the sense of whether we have power over anyone else's decision to have that happen to them. We don't have any power over how people come into this period of being able to recognize their predator. And it's just like a baby bird in its nest. Like, there has to be that moment when the baby bird's gonna jump out of the nest and it has to fly, or it's gonna fall and be eaten by something, and the mom is just gonna have to know. And even deeper than that, like, the baby bird may fall and roll a little bit and run and then get back up and fly, and the mom has to let that happen and not like go down there and swoop and take care of it, because otherwise the baby bird will never learn. You know what I mean? So of course, like, parenting, like, you could parent a child well enough that they kind of understand, but even in the book it says however, even with the wisest mothering and fathering, the young female may, especially beginning about the age of 12, be seduced away from her own truth by peer groups, cultural forces, or psychic pressures, and so begins the rather reckless risk-taking in order to find out for herself. So yeah, basically there's too many outside forces that create a human being in order for us to be able to predict whether or not a human being is able to act within their instinctual self, you know? Like, it's just not something that you can control for someone else. However unavoidable it is that we may go through this, there are some ways that we can lead women to be a little bit less naive, so that they're not quite like, you know, so susceptible to the situation. So I have like one quote that says, "The acquiescence to marrying the monster is actually decided when a girl is very, very young, usually before the age of 5. They are not taught to see and instead taught to make pretty all manner of grotesquities, whether they're lovely or not. This training is why the younger sister can say, his beard isn't really that blue." This early training to be nice causes women to override their intuitions. In that sense, they are actually purposefully taught to submit to the predator. Imagine a wolf mother teaching her young to be nice in the face of an angry ferret or a wily diamondback rattler. Doesn't make any sense now, does it? Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Basically, what I got is women naturally have this like very strong ability to like recognize the truth in things, I think, more than just recognizing the beauty in things. But we're societally trained to then lean towards the beauty of things. I think probably because we're beautiful, maybe. I'm gonna assume that's why. But we're trained to lean towards that, and it's a hindrance in the fact that it teaches us to always find the nice and the beauty out of everything, rather than in circumstances of survival, protect ourselves. And in our instinctual wisdom of knowing the truth, where we really should go with that knowledge of the truth is more, less of seeking out beauty and more of accepting negativity and beauty, and being able to therefore make decisions based on that acceptance of the full situation, the full truth. So I have another example in the book. It says, say for instance a naive woman keeps making poor choices in a mate. Somewhere in her mind she knows this pattern is fruitless, that she should stop and follow a different value. She often even knows how to proceed, but there's something compelling a sort of Bluebeardian mesmerization about continuing the destructive pattern. In most cases, the woman feels that if she just holds on to the old pattern a little longer, why surely the paradisical feeling that she seeks will be in heartbeat, the next heartbeat. At another extreme, a woman involved in a chemical addiction most definitely has at the back of her mind a set of older sisters who are saying, no, no way. This is bad for the mind and bad for the body. We refuse to continue. But the desire to find paradise draws the woman into the marriage to Bluebeard, the drug dealer of psychic highs. Whatever dilemma a woman finds herself in, the voices of the older sisters in her psyche continue to urge her to consciousness and to be wise in her choices. They represent the voices in the back of the mind that whisper the truths that a woman may wish to avoid, for they end in her fantasy of paradise found. They end the fantasy of paradise found. Sorry, I think I read that wrong. This is not only relevant to just love. Like, this can happen literally in love relationships, with drug addiction, with eating habits, with anything that we know is bad for us. Even for me, sometimes, like, Instagram, like, just being on Instagram when I know I shouldn't be, like, that is not listening to the sisters in the back of my mind yelling at me that this isn't healthy. Like, you should be doing something else, and you know you should. So take care of yourself and do what you need to be doing to grow your life. This is why I say, again, it may seem like the outside world is what's tearing you down, but really it's your ignorance to your own spirit that tears the woman's psyche away from her. The key to knowing the predator, the key to knowing your prey, and the key to just knowing, period, is point blank knowing. It's the knowing of your spirit. It's the freedom to question. It's the freedom to be curious and learn. And that is where, in the Bluebeard story, it obviously showed, because he stopped her from being allowed to be curious in her own home. Point blank, a woman should be allowed to be curious, but definitely in her own home, she's allowed to open whatever the heck door she wants to. And if you got something to hide, then you shouldn't have married her. You know what I mean? I have a reference in the book. It says, the naive woman tacitly agrees to remain not knowing. Women who are gullible or those with injured instincts still, like flowers, turn in the direction of whatever sun is offered. The naive or injured woman is then too easily lured with the promise of ease, of lilting enjoyment, of various pleasures, be they promises of elevated status in the eye of her family, her peers, or promises of security, eternal love, high adventure, or sex. I totally understand that and hate to admit it. If she attempts to obey the Bluebeard's command not to use the key, she chooses death for her spirit. By choosing to open the door to the ghastly secret room, she chooses life. I totally understand this, because this is like a really weird thing that kind of never really came out, I guess. I definitely never said it online, but literally both of the times that I caught my ex cheating on me were directly after having having an intimate period with him. Just say that, and y'all know where I'm going with that. And very much so, in my mind, I think that I was I don't want to admit to what's going on, because I don't want to be without that, if I'm getting it, you know what I mean? So I understand how she feels. I understand what she's talking about. It says in the book, those who would develop consciousness pursue all that stands behind the readily observable, the unseen chirping, the murked window, the lamenting door, the lip of light beneath a sill. They pursue these mysteries until the substance of the matter is laid open to them. As we shall see, the ability to stand what one sees enables a woman to return to her deep nature, there to be sustained in all thoughts, feelings, and actions. Yeah, seriously, the ability to ask questions, the ability to be real with somebody, me and my relationship now with my boyfriend now, like I'm gonna just say that I was definitely not losing anything by admitting to the truth and moving on past my past relationship, because like so much is so much better because I'm able to be in a relationship with someone where I can be open and communicative with them. I can ask him whatever I want to ask him. He'll tell me anything in the whole planet. You know, like there's no secrets. That's a totally different feeling, a totally different place to be in. So this part talks about how in the story, the like woman was kind of like trying to figure out how to hide what happened, and that happens a lot too. I definitely went through this. Usually when a woman first realizes that she like the truth of what's going on, there's a strong urge to protect yourself, and that urge is like compiled with the fact that we don't have like strong and touchness with our instinct, so it's a tainted urge, and it will manifest itself in really like negative ways of just hiding it and continuing to be in the situation. Like for instance, I actually, the first time that my ex cheated was before I even got married to him, but I didn't want to admit to the situation, so I went through an entire year of like then getting married to him, moving across the like state away from my family with him, like all that kind of stuff, because I just didn't want to admit to it in the very, 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 very beginning, you know? And this is the like scar that the predator leaves on you. It's the lasting effect that they leave. It's the after even having left a situation, it turns us into just not knowing our own instincts, what I like to call a temptation squirrel. Basically, after leaving these like situations, so for instance, directly after leaving my ex, I got on Tinder and was like everywhere and like wanted to just like delve into everything. I almost ended up like moving to Vegas for some dude that I met, and like just crazy stuff that like it was just too much not listening to me. And until I came back to listening to me, that's when I know that like the scar has healed, you know? Like for examples of this, like this is where procrastination comes from. This is the girl who claims that she wants love, but she ruins every single relationship so that she gets into. This is the woman who wants to delve into some great creative act, but every time she goes like to home, she's exhausted from her 9 to 5 and keeps taking double shifts because she wants more money but isn't devoted to like building her own vision. This is like the most difficult step after having dealt with the predator, is healing the scar and getting past the temptation squirrel and learning to listen to your own instincts. This is the stuff that takes time and energy and soul work. Even just the tearing away from the Bluebeard himself, the Bluebeard isn't gonna be happy that you're doing this, not the external one or the internal one, and it's gonna be difficult to run away from, whether that be running back to the external Bluebeard in your life or the temptation squirrel in your heart, and it's probably gonna be both. It was both for me. This is the part where you have to be strong, because because of this temptation squirrel thing, like it's hard to then find your spirit. Like how do you then know what to listen to, because everything in your own instincts are telling you to do all the wrong things? So this is the point where you have to be strong and be faithful to what you believe. Like you have to have values and you have to be faithful to whatever they are, and like try and push your way out and see what happens, kind of thing. It says here, among animals there's said to be a mysterious psychic dance between the predator and the prey. It is said that if a prey gives a certain kind of servile eye contact, and a certain kind of shiver that causes a faint rippling of the skin over its muscles, that the prey, acknowledging its weakness to the predator, is acknowledging its weakness to the predator and agrees to become the predator's victim. There are times to shiver and run, and there are times to not. At this critical time, a woman must not shiver and must not grovel. Bluebeard's young wife's plea for time to gather herself together is not the sign of submission to the predator. It's her shrewd way of gathering her energy up into muscle. Like certain creatures of the forest, she is poised to make an all-out strike against the predator. She dives into the ground to escape the predator, then unexpectedly surfaces behind him. This is what it's talking about. Like, this is the period where you have to be strong. You have to believe that you want better for yourself, believe in what you believe that is, and make a decision to get it. So the most important thing is the ability to ask questions in any and all situations after you have come out of your Bluebeard situation, or to tell if you're in a Bluebeard situation. The most important thing is to be able to be curious and to be open with your curiosity. It says in the book, perhaps most elementally, the Bluebeard story raises to consciousness the psychic key, the ability to ask any and all questions about oneself, about one's family, one's endeavor, and one's life all around. Then, like the wildish being who sniffs out things, snuffles into and under and around and to discover what a thing is, a woman is free to answer true to her deepest and darkest questions. She is free to wrest the powers from the thing which has assailed her, and to turn those powers which were once used against her into her own well-suited and excellent uses. That is the wildish woman. The ability to be curious, the ability to sniff around, the ability to ask questions, the ability to conversate about things in a safe environment. That is the number one most important thing that you can have in any relationship with anyone, because that is how you can tell if they're a predator and if you are their prey. So, I hope you guys enjoyed that video. I hope you guys understood what I was kind of talking about. This kind of introduces a new element. I think that many women have Bluebeards in their lives currently. Many women have gone through Bluebeard situations in the past, and many women are continuously going through Bluebeard situations. And I think that the most important thing about any situation in your life is self-reflection and an understanding of what happened and what you can learn from it. So if you have those things, then you should be good to go. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. The next chapter that I'll be working on is chapter 3. Let's see what it's about. I don't even know which chapter this is. Oh, so this chapter is nosing out the facts, the retrieval of intuition and initiation. This is basically about how you retrieve your creative life and your deep soul journey and path or whatever, and retrieve that intuition deep down. Yeah, so excited for that and excited to get back to this. I'm thinking, guys, I might start doing this as a podcast. I think it'd be kind of fun to record this and put it on SoundCloud, and then it probably would be easier too, because I was thinking about if I was watching this, how I would watch it, and I would probably want to watch it where I could just listen to it and not in a video format, so that I could also be doing other stuff and brushing my teeth and that kind of thing. So if you guys are interested in that, leave me a comment down below, but I'm pretty sure I think that's what I'm gonna do. So I think I'm gonna record the first 2 episodes and put them up on SoundCloud, and then I'm gonna do the 3rd one as well on SoundCloud. So yeah, I'll leave the link to that in my videos in the future, and then you guys can keep up with this story. And let me know if you guys don't want me to do that. Please let me know if you don't want me to do that, because I won't do it if you're not interested, but yeah. Follow me on all my social media to find out more stuff that I'm doing, because I'm working on a bunch of stuff for you guys. So get in touch with me and let me know what you want. I love you guys so much. Please subscribe to stay updated. Please like this video if you liked it. Yeah, I love you so much.